So continuing on. There's no area where it's harder to deal with Tad than the subject of what you do wrong. Tad can't justify what he does, and he can't apologize, and he can't say he'll do better. I don't know why he doesn't have those skills, but he can't do it. And he won't. And he doesn't. Tad spent 46 minutes arguing that everything I said that he did wrong was incorrect. Most of those arguments are ludicrous. He said that anybody in their right mind would obviously, pick his side, which nobody has. I mean, obviously, Lisa didn't. And to the most degree, neither did Steve. Steve, on the other hand, did not listen to the entire audio. I asked him to. He said he was going to add, his to help and all that. But he just didn't. I'm not entirely sure why. When we talked about it, he did have some interesting things to say. An interesting point of view on Tad being crazy. And it wasn't particularly negative. One of the things that he said was that Tad just can't recognize the fact that he's not making sense. I really find that hard to believe. I would like to believe that Tad is somewhat rational. I think that you can't look at his 9 responses, or however many there were, and think that he's actually a rational person. You really just can't. His responses to just being told that he is not being a very good friend was never to apologize. Even when he went and got all Scientological on us and sent us this huge, long letter, I almost called it a diatribe. He actually kind of ruined that word by using it like 20 times in his response to Lisa. I'm going to have to find a new word now. He ruined diatribe. Really, ruined a diatribe. Just ruined it. Used the heck out of it. Just made it useless. Totally just lost my place thinking about diatribe. That's really frustrating. I have really bad allergies today. My head's really stuffed up. So, Tad wrote this big, long Scientology explanation for his area of liability. And he acted like that was the biggest thing in the world. So, I think a single paragraph about how he was in liability is a good thing, a good start. But I think he probably did many times that. I don't want to start getting into Tadism and just start randomly putting out a number there, because I haven't counted everything he wrote. But considering that he wrote 46 minutes of material that he read out loud, and then 9 or 10 additional tapes, let's just say that there was quite a bit more about how I'm to blame for everything, and a single paragraph where he talks about how he's the liability. And even in his single paragraph, one paragraph, the only paragraph that he did where he accepted any blame at all, he still had to blame me for something. It couldn't just be about what he'd done. Nope, it had to be about me, which was frustrating. That car really sounds terrible. So yeah, it was a long, complicated tirade, maybe? Maybe I'll go with tirade. Hopefully he won't mess up tirade. Yeah, it was really disappointing to have to witness all that. And I don't understand how Tad thinks that he gets the right to be like, oh, you've said stuff to me and done stuff to me, and the way you think about me, we're no longer friends. In one of his long, complicated things, one of the least horrible and damaging things Tad said, he said, I think Mike just has a long list of pet peeves, and if I was to change one of them and work on one of them, he'd just switch and get another one. It's like, wow, that's such a lazy excuse. But the more I started thinking about that, the more I was like, hey, you know what? That is kind of a betrayal. That is not the sort of person I want to be my friend. I don't understand how Tad cannot understand the concept. It's a pretty simple concept. Tad has done some things wrong. There are some areas where he needs to work on things. He doesn't have a lot of being friend skills. He uses more than he gives back. He expects more than he gives. I don't know how else to say it, how more simply to say it. But every time you come up with any kind of example for anything Tad does, he goes on the attack and then absolutely has to invalidate it. Most of his invalidation strategies don't really seem to work that well. They just don't. It just doesn't seem like the sort of thing he would buy. I used to talk about a friend Michael, who has some self-esteem issues about. She used to talk about how she didn't deserve stuff, or how things were just the way things were. Like her family was treating her crappy one time, and she was like, well, kids are supposed to be seen and not heard. I'm like, you're 32 years old, you're not a child anymore. Well, she has this friend, I think her name was Amy or something. She's different. She's damaged too, but she's maybe a little slutty and has dark hair and big boobs and is nice enough. Maybe a little plastic, maybe a little fake, but Michael really seems to like her. And so she would tell me something and it would be ridiculous, and it would be, like, hey, your parents are treating you like crap, but children are supposed to be seen and not heard. And I would say, hey, how would you feel if Amy said that? She's like, what do you mean? Well, what if Amy's parents were treating her like crap and telling her she shouldn't talk and she should be quiet because children are supposed to be seen and not heard? And every single time her response would always be like, that's ridiculous. Amy's not a child anymore. She shouldn't be treated like that. She would vigorously defend Amy, but she would never defend herself. Even if we took the exact same position that she was in and then pretended that Amy was in it, instantly she would rouse to Amy's defense, but she would never consider defending herself. I think Tad has the exact opposite thing going on. I think that anything Tad does is okay with him. He's somewhere along the lines made some sort of deal, plan with himself, whatever, where as long as anybody complains about him, he'll just attack them until they get tired and stop. I think the fact that when Tad started treating me badly and was just probably about the time, honestly, when he said that he'd help me if I had already borrowed money from him. At that point, I was pretty much like, wow, I guess them's the rules now. So, like, hey, the other day I tried to tell you that I was having trouble and you were just like, fix my WordPress. I don't need that in my life. When you want to be a better friend, I'll talk to you again. So that was pretty much how I handled that. I haven't been talking to Tad since then. We've had this argument on email going back and forth, and really all I wanted was for him to understand that he was making some mistakes and that he was causing hurt to other people, and he couldn't do it. So Tad's telling me that we're no longer friends is it doesn't bother me like it used to, like we did a bunch of times. And I almost don't even feel the urge to explain it. I feel like I get a little bit of closure by making this audio recording, but I almost don't feel like doing it, because when you go back through the email and you look, there are, I don't know, I don't know how many points I raised and how many points Lisa raised where Tad just doesn't acknowledge them. And even if he does acknowledge them, he just doesn't engage. Lisa wrote a very long and very well thought out response, and it was a lot more measured than you would think it would be after being called a talking vagina. And his response to her was just, it was just like, oh, well, you're not really listening to me, so I'm not going to bother talking to you. I've already covered this. This has been covered already. It was just lazy, and, you know, in many cases, Tad would say that he covered something, but it would be just insane. I mean, when he wrote a response to me about all he's done for me, he listed Chinese food we got in our 20s. He listed the $70 he loaned me. He listed the money that he gave me to shut me up. Which, I mean, it was kind of a reckoning. Like, I'm going to give you this $100. Like, I'm a bill collector. Like, I'm going to give you this $100. This is all you got coming. Like, that is really insulting. I mean, hey, Tad has been homeless for most of his life. He's been broke most of his life. He now has more money than he's ever had in his life. You know, a real friend might actually pay me back for some of that stuff. The money I sent him in prison, the money I spent on phone cards, the money I sent on even just the backpack thing, which is a whole separate topic. Tad has this ungratefulness that is unbelievable. I made a whole 3 15-minute tapes on his section where he complains about the food and the backpack that I sent him. He complains about the food and that basically the food wasn't good enough. He didn't really want to make the food, blah, blah, blah. I don't understand that. I don't understand it. I mean, in my head, I realize that it's what Tad has to do so that he's not guilty. I get it. I mean, people don't like prosecutors because they put people in jail. I mean, nobody likes being told that they did something wrong. But on the other hand, people don't like defense attorneys because their job is to get the person off, whether they're guilty or not. So, I mean, Tad's strategy of attacking the victim is an old one, and it's a good one, but it's not something people should do. It sucks. And him actually being upfront and saying, you know, most of your gifts are annoying. I don't even understand that. Just like I was just blown away by the fact that as soon as he got his SSI, I was like, yeah, I don't need this tablet. Like, what? Yeah, I'm just going to sell it or give it away or something. I'm like, no, send it back to me. I mean, it was cool that there was somebody else who could use it. I haven't even talked to her. I haven't even seen her since I gave her the tablet more than a couple times. And, you know, even then, she was more grateful than Tad has been about anything I've ever given him. He actually listed in the conversation a calculator watch I gave him when we were like in high school or something. And what a stupid gift that was. Which just goes to show that Tad is a retard, because I gave him a calculator watch because that's what they had in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And it, even at the time that I gave it to him, it was somewhat retro, and it was a calculator watch. I mean, now he had one, just like in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I mean, it's the same reason why you give someone a towel. It's an inside joke. And the fact that he didn't get that is pretty disappointing. But I think what has actually happened is Tad will turn anything to his defense. Anything that you've ever done is fair game for him to make fun of, or to put you down for, or to just use it to get out of being in trouble.